Mr Deputy President, thank you for that. I'm pleased to move that the House take note of report number 60 of the Standing Committee on Law and Justice entitled The First Review of the Workers' Compensation Scheme. Most members would be aware that this is hardly the first review of the Workers' Compensation Scheme done by the Law and Justice Committee. In fact, some members of the committee are old hands and are highly qualified at reviewing the scheme in its various iterations over the years, and I acknowledge their experience and guidance for me as the chair of this inquiry, conducting my first review on what is a most complex area of legislation. In 2014, the committee conducted a review of the functions of the Work Cover Authority. However, following significant reforms to the workers' compensation system in 2015, Work Cover was abolished and 3 new agencies assumed its roles, being the State Insurance Regulatory Authority, SIRA, S-I-R-A, Insurance and Care New South Wales, called iCare, and Safe Work New South Wales. This is the committee's first review of the scheme since those changes. Mr Deputy President, allow me, for the benefit of members, to provide some context briefly and overview of the Workers' Compensation Scheme in New South Wales. The New South Wales Workers' Compensation Scheme is the largest defined benefits scheme in Australia. In the 2015-16 financial year, the system insured $226 billion in wages and received 91,977 new claims. This insurance system is made up of 4 key segments, which are the nominal insurer, which is iCare, a statutory insurer responsible for workers' compensation, the insurance fund, which is administered by iCare, the specialist insurers, which are private insurers licensed to operate within certain industries, the self-insurers, which are large employers licensed to self-insure, and government self-insurers, which includes the New South Wales Police, New South Wales Ambulance and New South Wales Fire and Rescue, who are covered by the Treasury Managed Fund, TMF. The TMF is administered by the New South Wales Self-Insurance Corporation, SICORP, which is administered by iCare. I'm sure that's all very clear for all members. iCare, as a nominal insurer, delivers one of the world's largest workers' compensation schemes, covering 3.1 million workers in more than 284,000 New South Wales businesses. And I think it's important that we absorb the size of that workers' compensation system. iCare advised the committee that last year they oversaw the care of 60,000 injured workers and paid out $1.7 billion in claims. Additionally, iCare's self-insurance insures over 300,000 workers in the public sector through the TMF. As I mentioned in my opening comments, following significant reforms to the workers' compensation system in 2015, Work Cover was abolished and 3 new agencies assumed its roles. And this is the first review since those significant reforms. In addition to those structural reforms, the entitlements or compensation available to injured workers as part of the scheme have also undergone considerable changes in recent years. In particular, the schemes significantly improved financial performance following the 2012 reforms undertaken by the outstanding former Minister, the Honourable Greg Pearce, has now allowed the government to extend sustainable, fiscally responsible benefits to more injured workers. This was most apparent in 2015 when the New South Wales Government introduced a package that saw $1 billion of available funds above the minimum surplus required returned to workers in additional benefits and return to work support, whilst the remaining balance was returned to businesses as lowered premiums. The inquiry heard evidence that the 2015 addition of some benefits for injured workers would not have been possible had it not been for the 2012 reforms that rescued the New South Wales Workers' Compensation Scheme from total ruin and a massive financial black hole for the taxpayer. In 2015, the New South Wales Government announced the $1 billion reform package to deliver a fairer, more sustainable and customer-centric workers' compensation system. The Government reported that these reforms are focused on helping injured workers with the highest needs, assisting return to work and applying benefits more equitably. These benefits were introduced in stages and covered a number of changes. One such change was the maximum lump sum compensation for permanent impairment, which was increased up to $577,000. Additionally, SIRA advised in November 2015 the Workers' Compensation Regulation of 2010 was amended to enable workers who made a claim for lump sum compensation before 19th of June 2012 to make one further claim if their condition significantly deteriorated. Other changes include death benefit lump sum amounts, which were increased up to $750,000. The weekly payments of those beyond retiring age were extended for 12 months, as well as the extension of the medical entitlement period for all workers. There were also changes to lifetime compensation for artificial aids, home and vehicle modifications for all approved claims, and lifetime medical expenses for injured workers with high needs, that being more than 20% permanent impairment. For injured workers with highest needs, minimum weekly compensation payments will be provided as well as secondary surgery, which is now available to all eligible workers. These improvements to the system aim to ease the financial burden that an injury sustained at work can have on a claimant and seek to improve the quality of life for those who have a lifetime injury. The committee noted that following the improved financial position of the scheme as a result of the 2012 reforms, the New South Wales Government has substantially enhanced entitlements available to workers. The $1 billion reform package introduced in 2015 demonstrates the Government's capacity to listen to stakeholders and to provide injured workers, particularly those with highest needs, greater access to benefits, whilst also maintaining the commitment to incentivising return to work and maintaining a financially viable scheme. The committee also recognises that there may continue to be opportunities to enhance workers' entitlements, and where appropriate, the committee has made recommendations to the New South Wales Government for action in this area. But we also warn the Government to proceed cautiously in this regard, given the underlying volatile fiscal nature of the scheme. Turning now to some of the recommendations of the report. One key issue repeated throughout this review was the complexity of the bifurcated dispute resolution. Bifurcated dispute resolution process for work capacity decisions and liability decisions. For the benefit of members, I will provide a Webster Dictionary definition.
Shame, Oxford. Oxford or bust.
Of bifurcate. A word you don't hear at the local pub or cafe, as I think it neatly sums up our committee's concerns. Bifurcate is a verb. Right. Bifurcate is a verb meaning to break into two parallel branches or a fork. Indeed. And to illustrate this in context, Webster's provides a helpful illustration. The stream bifurcated into two narrow winding channels. I could end the report with that, Mr Deputy President. Yeah. It would be fair for me to say that the committee unanimously felt that the disputes resolution streams not only bifurcated into two narrow winding channels, but also terminated abruptly into billabongs and impenetrable swamps. While the administrative review process for work capacity decisions was intended to provide a quick, cost-effective dispute resolution mechanism, in some ways it has generated more problems than it has solved. One such element of the dispute resolution process is the Workers' Compensation Independent Review Office, WIRO, which was established as part of the 2012 reforms. WIRO's purpose is to deal with complaints of injured workers in regard to the conduct of their claims by insurers and to handle the disputes which may arise between employers and scheme agents. In some ways, it adds to the overly complex disputes resolution system. It conducts procedural reviews of work capacity decisions issued by insurers and covers the cost of injured workers' legal expenses in relation to disputes with insurers, which are examined through the Independent Legal Review Service. Now, WIRO also regularly communicates with stakeholders across various platforms to keep them informed of current developments in the scheme, with the distribution of newsletters and publication information gathered from its complaint centre. Now, the committee was of the opinion that WIRO plays an important quasi-ombudsman-like role in the workers' compensation scheme, and it is supported by most stakeholders. Further on dispute resolution. The Workers' Compensation Commission is responsible for determining disputes in relation to an insurer's liability for weekly payments of compensation if the weekly compensation claim falls within the first 130 weeks. The Commission is also responsible for the medical assessments, which are to be conducted by approved medical specialists, appointed by the Commission to assess disputes about medical issues concerning workers' compensation claims. However, the Commission does not have the authority to make a decision about a dispute which related to the work capacity decision made by an insurer, and cannot make a decision in respect of a dispute before the Commission that is inconsistent with the work capacity decision of an insurer. The committee was also made aware of the numerous concerns relating to the bifurcation of the dispute resolution processes. The sheer number of different pathways available for challenging workers' compensation decisions is staggering, and it's easy to see why workers may be overwhelmed and find the system impenetrable. I think the committee felt their pain. Whilst having a separate administrative review system for work capacity decisions was initially intended as a way of having a simple, quick and cost-effective dispute resolution process, the complexity of the rules and the procedures underpinning this system has raised real concerns about the accessibility of the process. The committee has noted that there is a need to provide a simpler, more accessible dispute resolution process. This would be best achieved through access to a single, properly constituted forum for dispute resolution that promotes the core values of a successful tribunal. The committee is of the recommendation that the New South Wales Government implement a single one-stop shop dispute resolution forum for all workers' compensation disputes. The one-stop shop would allow disputes to be triaged by suitably trained personnel, allow claimants to access legal advice as is currently regulated, encourage earlier mediation, use appropriately qualified judicial officers where suitable, and promote procedural fairness. It is also critical that the prompt exchange of relevant information and documentation is facilitated whilst technology is used to support the settlement of small claims. The current system is clearly impenetrable for many scheme participants. To address those concerns, the committee, as I said, has recommended the government establish a one-stop shop. This would be, in my words, our key recommendation for the government. I now turn to concerns around the behaviour of insurers, or scheme agents as they are referred to, who are contracted by iCare to administer the scheme. During the review, the committee's attention was repeatedly drawn to issues with insurer conduct, particularly conduct of case managers. These are the insurance companies commissioned by iCare to administer the insurance claims processes. It was disappointing to receive evidence suggesting that scheme agents are not adequately supporting injured workers and in some instances not appropriately following the guidelines issued by CIRA and iCare, especially in relation to the use of surveillance, independent medical examiners and the nominated treating doctors. That noted, on the other hand, we are also reminded of the huge volume of cases and interactions undertaken by the scheme agents. As I said in my opening comments, and I'll remind members, the New South Wales Workers' Compensation Scheme is one of the world's largest, covering 3.1 million workers in more than 284,000 New South Wales businesses, and iCare advised us that they oversaw the care of 60,000 injured workers and paid out $1.7 billion in claims via their scheme agents. So overwhelmingly, the evidence is that it is working. Not to diminish the handful of cases brought to our attention by various unions, and I feel it is valid to keep it all in perspective. Inquiries like this rarely get flooded with evidence of those satisfied with their treatment. However, we were concerned about the complaints and the lack of accountability for the scheme agents. We view the upcoming negotiations in 2017 for a new deed between iCare and the scheme agents as an ideal opportunity to address some of these concerns by embedding transparent KPIs and accountabilities in the new deed. The committee expressed confidence that iCare, with its impressive language of culture change and customer service focus, will grapple with these challenges to improve the customer or injured worker experience.
Tell us about CIRA.
One of the difficult issues brought to the attention of the inquiry is the impact of Section 39 of the 2012 reforms, which set a maximum cap for ongoing payments for most minor injury claims at 5 years. This reform has been transitioning through the system. However, based on evidence from CIRA, the committee noted that by the end of 2017, the final cohort of injured workers from the old scheme will transition off the permanent benefits system. In response, the committee noted submissions from injured workers, unions and their representatives that the recently improved financial position of the scheme should allow further benefits to be extended beyond the 5-year cap under the Section 39 of the Act. The committee does not agree. To this proposal, noting the evidence provided by CIRA about the volatility of the scheme's financial position. And I note that iCare advised that it has previously instructed PricewaterhouseCoopers Actuarial to estimate the potential impact of making changes to the weekly compensation benefits cap under Section 39 of the Act. That report concluded that if Section 39 were repealed totally, there would be a liability increase on the national insurer of $6.3 billion, and workers' compensation premiums would be required to increase by approximately 35%. Were the Section 39 cap to be repealed, PwC has estimated that the liability impact on the nominal insurer would be an increase of liability of $6.3 billion. The scheme would spiral into debt, where it was before 2012. This estimate includes an allowance for the potential behavioural changes that may arise and potential exaggeration or fraud. In addition to liability impact, the change has been estimated to lead to increase in the required workers' compensation premium of approximately 35%. Clearly, the volatile nature of the scheme finances would make the scheme financially unviable. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank all the stakeholders who participated in this review. I also acknowledge my committee colleagues, the Deputy Chair, the Honourable Linda Volz, the Honourable David Clark, the Honourable Trevor Khan, the Honourable Daniel Mulkey and Mr David Shuvich, and I extend my appreciation for their insightful contributions and assistance to me as a chair of my first review. Finally, I would like to thank sincerely the committee secretariat for their ongoing work. We couldn't do this without their support and this report. Mr Deputy President, I commend the report to the House.